planned your lesson, you followed the steps, you thought everything was clear, but in class, something still felt off. That sounds familiar? You are not alone. Today I'll be breaking down the 5 most common planning mistakes teachers usually make without even realizing it and how to fix them. Hi, I'm Inas Adel, teacher trainer, Cognia Certified Evaluator, and workshop facilitator. I've worked for more than 13 years in the classroom supporting teachers, and I have seen the same lesson planning pitfalls happen again and again with teachers. And interestingly enough, they're not the big, huge mistakes. They're the small pitfalls, the sneaky ones that kind of make their way through, and they make your lesson feel kind of rushed, chaotic, flat. And this is what we're going to be discussing today. So let's jump in. First mistake we have is too much teacher talk. And I know that as teachers, we tend to believe that we have to clarify, explain, model, and repeat things over and over and over again to get students to understand. And this is true. We do need to model, we do need to clarify, but research has proven that students learn much better when they do the talking and not the teacher. And think of it this way: if you're sitting in a session, listening to a lecture go on and on and on, are you going to listen, or are you going to eventually lose focus? And this is what happens with students. So the solution is simple. When you have to speak a lot or explain a lot, find some way to shift the focus back to your students. So use something like pair share, think, write, share. Students explain something. Students get a quick word check-in. Any kind of discussion, any kind of reflection, any kind of task that kind of, shifts the focus back to the students, gives them the control. The second mistake I usually see is we start the lesson without giving any sort of hook or context. And this is kind of weird because this is, your springboard to your session. So before you actually start explaining, don't dive into the actual lesson. You kind of need to warm up the session somehow, either by showing context, why you're teaching what you're teaching, or how this is going to help them, or how this is related to their project, blah, 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 whatever, or link it to, any prior knowledge that they covered, a session that they covered earlier, or a lesson that they covered earlier. And I understand the kind of dilemma we face as teachers, which is we usually run out of time. So my advice to you is just keep it as quick and short as possible. It could be a real life scenario where you discuss, how the skills can help them in real life. It could be an open-ended question, or even something as funny as a meme, and they kind of predict what the meme is about, link it back to their lesson, and so on. Okay, the third mistake I see, and this is really, really, really common, is mixing up objectives with tasks. Students will complete a worksheet is not an objective. The objective is the skill or the takeaway that they're taking with them when they're leaving the session. And this is where you teachers, kind of find it confusing when they're writing the objectives to the lesson plan. So ask yourself, what are the students taking away? So completing the worksheet is a student activity, a student task. But the skill is maybe learn how to summarize or identify the main idea. What is the skill they're taking away from that worksheet? So just ask yourself, what is the takeaway? What is the skill or the concept that they're walking away with? And another really common mistake I see is not planning transitions. So for example, I planned a session and then I run out of time because I did not put into account the time it takes for me to enter the session, to take the attendance, to write the objectives on the board, for students to get their books out, for students to enter the class, for students to move to their new groups, for students to get up to the board and post their sticky notes. Those are all called transitions. And those are the moments that we don't account for in the lesson plan. And as a result, we run out of time at the end of the session and we don't finish the plan. So the fix is really simple. Just think about everything that you do, every step you go, add this one sentence to your mind as you plan. I'll say this, I'll move here, this will take, okay? I'll say, go to your seats, okay? And I'll move to the board, and this will take students 3 to 4 minutes to sit in their seats. I'll announce the new groups, and then I will rotate, and students will take 5 minutes to go to their new groups, and so on. Now, this is gonna change everything, and you can kind of see the time frame for the entire session in front of you. The fifth most common mistake is no closure. the session just kind of ends abruptly and suddenly. And again, I understand that we sometimes run out of time, and so the solution is simple. Think of a way to end your session that will not, again, take a lot of time. So it could be a quick question, a sticky note response, a poll to see how many people understood. But you do need to close your session in a way that kind of wraps it up and doesn't feel, awkward. So the fix is really simple. It doesn't have to be a quiz. You can try one sentence summary. You just tell them, take out sticky notes and write a one sentence summary, summarize the session, or a quick question that they answer on the sticky note, or just turn to your partner and share one thing that you learned, or share the hardest part and share one thing that you need to work on, or a question you still have. Okay, just don't end it abruptly. Students kind of need to feel that there is some sort of sequence to your session. Okay, so let's kind of wrap it up. First of all, reduce your TTT as much as possible. Try to get students talking as much as possible. Break up the monotony with exercises. Make sure to have a nice warm-up at the very beginning. It doesn't have to take time if you usually run out of time, but you need to add context or link to prior knowledge. Make sure to know the difference between an objective, a goal or an outcome, and a student task. Okay, make sure you plan ahead and keep in mind that transitions will take time. And finally, add a quick reflection at the end. So the warm-up and the reflection could be really short if you usually tend to, fall behind or run out of time in your session. And yeah, that's basically it. Which one of those sneaky mistakes do you usually make? I myself have made every single one of them at a certain point in my career. What about you? Drop in the comments. No shame, just teachers helping teachers. If you found this useful, please subscribe. I've got more videos coming up, all related to real teaching strategies, actual practical planning tips, and PD tips that actually work and help out. See you in the next one.